This is
Cast.
Hello everyone, I'm Colton and welcome back to my podcast Racing. In today's episode, I will be talking about Star Wars, just everything Star Wars related. The main topic of this podcast today will be comparing each of the three Star Wars trilogies and just sharing me and my friends' thoughts about each trilogy and just us giving in our input on what other people's thoughts are. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce two very good friends of mine. So please tell me your guys' names and favorite Star Wars movies.
Hi, my name is Michaela. My favorite Star Wars movie is the third one in the prequel, which is was it the Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and my name is Joshua, and my favorite is actually going to be Phantom Menace.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, the Lord's name in vain, brother.
Oh my god.
It's all good.
Oh my
I don't know,
gosh.
something about yeah.
You can't even remember his name.
Qui-Gon Jinn!
Oh my
I was
God.
going to say...
You guys can't even remember... You can't
I
remember
know.
his name?
I just have trouble with the titles.
I was
Oh
going to
my
say Kim
gosh.
Jong-un, so glad I didn't say that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, please. Yeah, definitely no. And obviously, you guys know me. My favorite movie in the Star Wars franchise is Empire Strikes Back, which is the best Star Wars movie.
That's
dude,
my
you
brother's favorite one. I
Oh,
think.
is it?
Yeah, I think so. Either that one or the.
I mean...
What's the sixth one?
The sixth one is Return of the Jedi. Alright, go off to a great start.
Okay.
Okay, so like I said before, we're going to be talking about just Star Wars stuff and like comparing each of the trilogies. So, but before I go into that, real quickly, I'm just curious to hear what you guys thought of The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, you saw it.
Oh
You
man,
saw
I
it,
just
so-
saw it. I just saw it, and I honestly, I've been a fan of all three of the new movies. Because I don't know. I appreciate good special effects. I think it's the newest one. The Rise of Skywalker was the best out of all three, in my opinion. The fact. I mean, if you haven't seen it by now, you know, spoilers are going to be coming.
Oh yeah, by the way, spoilers for all the Star Wars movies
dude,
in this one.
You're missing out if you're listening to this and not going to see the movie. You're not doing yourself any help. But honestly, I thought it was great. Rey, honestly, I heard all the things about, oh man, Palpatine's back, but I did not see that coming. Rey being Palpatine's granddaughter was just that, and that's the biggest spoiler in the whole movie.
We'll talk about that
Yeah,
later.
So I should probably just say right now, I am not a fan of any of the new ones that came out because they totally disregard the first 6 movies. But just watching the 3, just watching them movie to movie, I enjoyed the first and the third one. The second one, I know, had a different director, and I think he did a really terrible job. But the first and the third, when they introduced Rey, and then the third one where they kind of closed it out, I think they were enjoyable, but for me, they do not count as Star Wars movies. The third one was good because they wrapped everything up, and it was a fun ending, but the fact that she's a Palpatine and the fact that the Emperor didn't die just totally disregards the fact that Anakin was supposed to be the chosen one, and it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I don't consider those 3 to be Star Wars movies. They're just kind of fun movies.
Anakin was the chosen one. He shut Palpatine down.
But then,
You can't pick a man up.
But Rey came back and was like, no, I'm gonna restore the Force. So basically what Anakin did was just part of the story, but Anakin was actually supposed to be the main person to stop the whole...
So honestly, I disregard Michaela here. She's crazy. Because I still see Anakin as being the chosen one. So, I don't know. I don't know what she's talking about.
I don't think you understand fully.
I think I do. I think I do. Yeah, see? I mean,
So I have a very different opinion than these two. So I'll ask you guys to share your brief thoughts on the original and the prequel trilogy in a bit. But first off, I'm going to share my thoughts on each of the trilogies. So original trilogy, love it. I do have issues with the original trilogy, but I'll get into that later. Prequel trilogy, all the movies are garbage, messy, terrible, but I still love them anyway. I can watch, not Attack of Clones, but Phantom Menace and Revenge of Sith. They're terrible movies, but I can watch them, in my opinion, but I can watch them over and over again. Now, let's talk. Now, I'll quickly share my thoughts on the Disney movies. So, Force Awakens, I actually really like that movie. Yes, it is essentially a rehash of A New Hope, but I don't know. Every time I watch it, I have a lot of fun, and I really like the characters. Last Jedi, my opinion is definitely a contrarian one, because Last Jedi is actually my third favorite Star Wars movie in the franchise. I love every time I watch that movie, it gets a little bit better for me. I really didn't like Rose kissing Finn. Rose in general is just a meh character, but not the worst Star Wars character. All of you racists out there, but I have no idea. I have no idea why I said that. But honestly, I love Last Jedi so much. I personally think Rian Johnson did a great job directing that movie. Rise of Skywalker, you guys already know how I feel about that one, and Rogue One is fine, and Solo is just meh.
Solo, I want to jump in here, Colton, real quick.
Sure.
Because I liked the end of Solo. Actually, gave me more of a reason to love Phantom Menace. If you didn't
because of the Darth Maul
because of Darth Maul,
right.
So I love Darth Maul as a villain.
I have not seen Solo yet.
The Mauls were evil. The Maul, like, they are just terrible, terrible bad guys. But I love bad guys. Like, if you have to have behind every good guy is a bad guy, so you need to balance it out. So Anakin is a good guy in the beginning, and in Phantom Menace he is like the ultimate good guy. Qui-Gon Jinn dies first, and then Anakin's left to defeat Darth Maul. But Darth Maul makes that cameo, and I just want to see another Solo movie because I'm hoping that they'll bring more light to that movie.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying with Solo. I really liked the Darth Maul cameo as well, but I don't know. Overall, it was just, I don't know. I just didn't really care that much, which is disappointing because Han Solo is actually my favorite character in the franchise in general. Like, I really like Harrison Ford. Han Solo is just so cool to me, and but I don't know, just something about Solo just didn't really connect with me. I thought that the cinematography was just way too dark. Like, watching it in the theater, I legitimately did not know what was happening at times because the screen, it was just too dark. But the Darth Maul cameo was cool. The train heist in Solo was cool.
That was so cool.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Jon Favreau, who, by the way, did a great job with Mandalorian. Yeah, I mean, meh. Alright, so if I could just get your guys' quick thoughts on the movies from brief thoughts from the movies from the original and the prequel trilogies.
So I grew up watching the prequels, so
Yeah,
I
same.
think that's why I love them so much, is because I got to know like Anakin and those characters really well. And then as I grew up, I would watch, like, especially during Christmas time, I would watch like all of them with my brother. And like I of course like fell in love with the originals too, but I have more love for the prequels. Also because I love like learning about the backstory of Darth Vader and how like his transformation and how he became Darth Vader. I just love watching character development like that. So
It's interesting you say that because in my humble opinion, not to put you down, but I personally thought that in the prequel trilogy, Anakin's turn to the dark side, becoming Darth Vader, was one of the worst aspects of the prequel trilogy. But we'll get into that later.
That's the whole thing.
We'll get into that.
That's the whole thing.
We will get it. I'll elaborate later, but first, Joshua, what do you think of the original movies and the prequel movies?
So the prequels were I'm sorry, I just totally burped into the mic.
You're fine.
So the prequels, I think, were pretty decent. It all comes down to me for the special effects. So back when the original Star Wars, the third, fourth, it's fourth, fifth, and sixth come out. When they came out, like, we didn't have as well, like, all the special effects. But then the newer ones came out, and now we're seeing places with ginormous waves and water towns, and I mean we got who's that? Misa. So what's his name? What's the little?
We do not speak his name.
Oh, okay.
Why
Okay.
everyone hates him? Why does everyone hate him?
I think
His name is wait, let me think. Wait.
So I think the special effects were what did it for me to make Phantom Menace and all the other movies the first three my favorites. But yeah, I don't know. I like the storyline of 4, 5, and 6. Like, the storylines were great. You could always say that these kinds of things are recycled. Like, the movie plots are recycled constantly. Come on, I mean, you have the start, the middle, the up and downs, and then the finish.
Yeah, that is Star Wars in general. Star Wars is essentially just each trilogy is just repeating itself. I have a very interesting relationship with Star Wars. So I actually watched 1, 2, and 3 first. So I vividly remember being 7, 8 years old. I think, yeah, I was around that age. And I watched Phantom Menace for the first time. And 7-year-old me loved it. I was like, this is so cool. Seeing Darth Maul with the dual red lightsabers, and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And I was like, and 7-year-old me wasn't old enough to notice the poor acting, the bad CGI, how annoying Jar Jar and Jake Lloyd, and how bad Jake Lloyd was.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. Let's get it.
Yeah, no, I really don't like him, but like millions of other people really don't like him, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I watched 1, 2, and 3 first, and then 4, 5, and 6. So I didn't start, despite 4, 5, and 6 coming out first chronologically. I watched them for the first time after 1, 2, and 3. So like you guys, I also grew up with the prequels, and growing up, I collected Star Wars Legos, figurines, cards, trading cards, all that stuff, and I loved it, and I did not care. And even like when I got older and I started to notice like the bad CGI, the wooden acting, and all that, I still loved the prequels. Although I always have acknowledged, even when I was like 8 years old, that the originals were so much better, but I love Star Wars, and I will confess, when it was announced that Disney bought Lucasfilm and they were coming out with The Force Awakens, I was excited but also nervous. Like, I got really nervous. I was like, oh no, like I really hope they don't screw this up. I honestly don't know like what direction this could go, and like what they'll do. But then when I saw Force Awakens in theaters with my dad, I loved it. I will admit, rewatching it, I still enjoy it. It's not quite as good as I initially thought, but initially I loved it. And you guys already know how I feel about the rest of the movies.
So Colton, I have a question for you.
Go.
Do you see 10, 11, and 12 coming out in the near future?
No.
No, you don't see anything else coming out in the line?
I think Disney will try to do that, but I don't think that it'll actually come to fruition.
I mean, we've seen the animated Star Wars, we've seen Star Wars stories like Solo and all the other ones.
Yeah.
We see now the Mandalorian coming out with Disney
Which
Plus.
is awesome. I love Mandalorian.
I just got Disney Plus, so don't. Yeah.
I've seen
one
episode.
I think in order for that to happen, it's going to have to be like 10 years, right? Because they've waited so long on these.
I thought it was going to be like 2 years from now that they were going to come out with another one.
You think they're going to come out with
according to Lucasfilm CEO Kathleen Kennedy, who I have some very... She's kind of a odd person, but anyway, according to Kathleen Kennedy, Star Wars Episode 10 will come out in 2022, but I highly doubt that release date will stay the same.
I mean, and that's the thing. Do they continue with Rey, or would they?
I really hope not.
Would
Yeah,
they
like
push
I
the
really,
storyline
I really
even more
hope
forward?
not.
They just need to stop. They need to call it. They need to. It would be cool if they completely had like they started a new Star Wars, like in a different galaxy, and just stop going off the old one. Like, I think that's what they should have done in the first place.
I agree.
But
yeah,
the Jedi,
I agree.
The Jedi versus the Sith is the whole plot line.
Honestly, I think it would be beneficial for Star Wars if they actually moved away from the Jedi versus Sith conflict and moved, like, what I like, this is not a spoiler for Mandalorian, but what I liked about Mandalorian is that it's not really about the Jedi versus the Sith. It focuses more on, like, what goes on, like, outside that conflict in the Star Wars universe. So
they could have, I feel like, rather than just expanding off of the original 6 like they did, they should have just made their own story, and then, because it just ruins the first 6.
Yeah, I do agree. As much as I like Force Awakens and love Last Jedi, I will agree, if those movies did not exist, I would be perfectly fine with that. Like, especially once I saw Rise of Skywalker and how it ended, I was like, oh boy. I really, you guys who watch my channel already know that what I really did not like about Rise of Skywalker, just so many, just why did Rey, one of my favorite things about Last Jedi was that Rey was a nobody. When it was revealed that Rey was a nobody and that her parents had sold her for drinking money, I thought that was great because it showed that a nobody could actually be somebody. Rey, a nobody, is still an awesome, badass, powerful Jedi. But nope, she's Rey Palpatine, and she and Kylo freaking kissed, which really, really pisses me off. Just so much.
So one thing there, I think that there's a lot to do with Rey in this last movie. Rey has to face a lot of internal issues here. So one, she doesn't remember why her parents sold her, and that's held throughout. We see that throughout these last 3. It's like I just know my parents sold me for some reason, and then we find out, oh, like her regressed memories start coming back, right? She blocked those memories out because she didn't know.
Yeah, but in Last Jedi, Kylo was the one who told her that her parents sold her for drinking money, and then all of a sudden, oh, actually, you are Rey Palpatine, and your parents were just trying to protect you. And
I thought that was so cool that Palpatine was like, she's not who you think she is, and then she's pulling that ship down because of Chewie. She's trying to save her friend, and what happens in her goodness, but the dark side of the Force comes out of her hands and blows that ship up. I mean, that was so, I thought that was really well scripted, and I did not see that one coming. That was the one thing in this movie I did not see coming.
See, that's interesting that you use that word well scripted, because I thought that Rise of Skywalker just, in my opinion, is one of the worst written Star Wars movies. Like I think that the script is almost as bad as the scripts from the prequels. And speaking of the prequels, actually, you guys seem to hold the. I mean, it makes sense because you guys grew up with the prequels, but you guys seem to hold the prequels in really high regard, and even like Jar Jar.
I don't like Jar Jar.
No, Joshua.
I love Jar.
Oh,
Lisa so like her, yeah.
Oh, you would like Jar
I like a Jar Jar. Yeah,
Oh,
you know, it's.
I just like I like seeing the development of Anakin, and just how like him and Padme came together, and
Okay, but let's. Sorry.
and then it was so heartbreaking when she died. Like, he foresaw her death, and then and like him turning to the dark side was actually, like, his attempt to save her was what actually killed her, and I just thought that was.
Okay, but let's talk about this so-called development. So, what happens with Anakin in the prequels?
Don't ruin my childhood, please.
I'm not purposely trying to ruin your childhood. I'm just looking at the movies factually in terms of like what happens in the story. So what happens in Phantom Menace through Anakin's perspective? Anakin is quote unquote rescued from slavery by Qui-Gon Jinn. He's separated from his
pod racing was the coolest part, dude.
Pod racing.
I can remember. I can remember.
Pod racing is
really
cool.
I remember going into Chuck E. Cheese just so I could get in that little flippin' ship thing and race around the map.
Cool.
It was so awesome.
I vividly remember actually playing pod racing on that Lego Star Wars game and having so much fun. So as many issues as I have with the prequels, I acknowledge that. Like, I also grew up with the prequels, so they are messy, but I still love them in a way. Except Attack of the Clones is just irredeemably awful.
Oh, just explain what you were saying, because I may not.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't by something.
So I wasn't fully understanding Attack of the Clones when I was watching it, but by the end of it, I understood that there's an army of clones now. But Boba Fett, right? That was with Boba Fett, correct?
I think the Attack of the Clones had Jango Fett and Boba Fett as a child.
Yes,
and then Boba Fett as an adult is in the original trilogy, obviously.
Yeah. So Jango Fett, like the fact that he was the clone the whole time, like he was being cloned, and then like it just, the plot didn't make sense to me. Like, why would you include all this stuff about these side characters?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense. So I don't know.
So let me get back to what I was saying before about Anakin. So what happens in Phantom Menace through Anakin's perspective? Qui-Gon Jinn rescues him from slavery on Tatooine. He's separated from his mother, unfortunately. He's brought to the Jedi Temple, and Mace Windu and Yoda are like, "No, we will not train you because you cannot control your emotions." And honestly, we'll talk later about the Jedis being absolute a-holes in the prequels, but basically, Anakin. So once Anakin is brought to the Jedi Temple, Qui-Gon says that he'll train Anakin. For the whole rest of the movie, which is like a good 45-50 minutes, Anakin has nothing to do. I mean, the only thing he does in the entire third act of the movie is just blow up that separatist base with the droids and whatever. And he says that infamous line, "No, this is pod racing," as you saw in my intro. But Anakin, the only thing that really happens with Anakin in Phantom Menace is just he's brought to the Jedi Temple, and that's really it. So what's the point of that? This is supposed to be Darth Vader, and with young Darth Vader, that's such a cool concept, seeing what Darth Vader was like as a child, but there's nothing interesting brought up.
So I want to compare real fast Harry Potter. Okay, you have Harry Potter and Voldemort. Okay, in the first Harry Potter's a kid. In the first Star Wars, Anakin's a kid, correct?
Yes.
So the evil behind Darth Maul, they had to make an evil there to turn Anakin bad, to say that Anakin's gonna one day be down the line Darth Vader. So I see Darth Maul as my Voldemort to my Harry Potter. Do you understand? Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making much sense there.
I'll be honest, I really don't understand what you just said, so...
yeah, well,
there's also, so I think it's, are you saying that you wish that Anakin had more of a presence?
I wish that we never even saw Anakin as a kid. I wish that Attack of the Clones was, instead of Phantom Menace, we just start off with where Attack of the Clones started, with Anakin being a Padawan, training under Obi-Wan, we seeing him as an older teenager / young adult. And I don't think that, I think it was just pointless seeing him as a kid at all. And him being brought to the Jedi Temple. What was the point of that?
Because the point was to emphasize that he was the chosen one. Because Qui-Gon saw that he had all these Quandalorian things. Midi-chlorians in the boy. So he was like, this boy is special. This boy is the chosen one. It was just the starting point, and then at the end of the movie, you see Palpatine before he turned. Well, he was the Emperor, but before we knew he was, you see him looking at him he said he referred to Anakin and saw Anakin as a child and kind of brought him up as a child to come to the dark side. So at a young age.
Yeah, I rewatched the prequel. I rewatched most of the Star Wars movies in preparation for this podcast, and yeah, Anakin and Palpatine do not. Unless I missed it, they do not interact at all in Phantom Menace.
There's one scene when he's a little kid, and there's one scene where he looks at Anakin and he says, "What does he say?" He says something along the lines of like, I hope to be seeing you around or something, or like he says something just kind of referring to Anakin, like glad to have you or something like that. Or
okay, I don't remember that at all.
I just know for a fact that he said something to Anakin, and you could tell it was a little bit of like, oh, I'm gonna be watching you, you know.
I guess, but
so that right there, it's just there's a start of like, hey, he's the chosen one, and then Palpatine just give him a little bit of nudge.
Yeah, okay, fine. I can see where you're coming from, but then we move on to Anakin and Attack of the Clones and Hayden Christensen's awful acting. Oh my god, just so
I mean, how
awful.
many times did he lose his lightsaber, and what was the point of that?
Yeah,
what was the point of that?
Yeah, what was the
no
point? There was no point in that, exactly.
He's like, he's gonna kill me. Obi's gonna kill me again.
One thing I don't like is there's some points in the prequels that just seem too goofy. There's too
That's
much,
all of
too
the
much,
prequels.
Too much CGI, too much special
That's
effects.
all of the prequels.
It's amazing how the older movies look better than the newer ones
No,
because
false.
because of the lack of CGI in the originals. It looks so much better. It looks so.
The older movies look better because there's actually props and little figurines there.
Yes,
like
and if they did that with the prequels, it'd be amazing.
There is a bit of stuff with computers in the original movies, but overall, it's like actual like props.
Yeah,
like,
and that's amazing.
Yeah,
I think that
But like Anakin in Attack of the Clones. Let's talk about Anakin in Attack of the Clones, even though I really don't want to.
He's a good actor, but I still like him I like that he is Anakin.
The
face of Anakin.
There is one great scene in Attack of the Clones involving Anakin, and that is when he finds his mother dead, killed by the Tusken Raiders, and then he just wails on them. He just goes insane, and he starts killing all the Tusken Raiders.
It's a little cheesy. Like
I love that scene.
In general. No, I mean just because of the CGI. I guess I don't know, because of the special effects and CGI, it makes it look cheesy.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely cheesy for sure. But I really liked that one 30-second scene. Yeah. But then it's ruined when Anakin later to Padme says, "I killed them, but not just the men, but the women and the children too." Oh. And it's like, that's such a horrible line. What? And if you actually watch that scene, you'll see Natalie Portman in the background just with a derp face. She's just like, duh, I don't know what to do. George Lucas, give me some direction. I don't know what to do. She has no react. She should be horrified. She should be horrified at what Anakin is saying to her, and she's just standing there like, I don't know what to do. And Hayden's acting was so bad in that line when he was like, I hate them, and I was like, are you kidding me? I will give, in defense of the actors though, the dialogue in all three of the prequels is atrociously awful. Just so bad.
So one thing, as a stage actor that back in high school, I want to see the script. I want to see the actual handwritten script where they sat down and just did a run through of the reading of how the movie should be played, and how the words are gonna play out, and just the dialogue and everything. Because I think that comes down to not just them knowing, but them not knowing what's going on there. Because they're confused. You can see it in their faces. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel right now. Because I don't think they had that direction under that.
Yeah, it's unfortunately George Lucas, even in the original movies, he didn't really direct the actors well, but he got help thanks to friends who helped him, friends and the actors on set and other cast and crew helped him. Make things sound a little bit more coherent and make the dialogue sound a bit better. If you watch the original movies, there are many lines of dialogue where it is pretty rough, but the actors are able to make it work. And I think that the thing is that I think that George Lucas was given way too much creative control in when he was made the prequels. Like, I think that like, if you watch the making of documentary for Phantom Menace, you'll see that basically the actors were almost never in an actual like environment. They were almost always in a blue or green screen set. And you'll see that no one really argues with like George. Everyone is like befuddled at like what George Lucas is telling them, but they don't argue with him, because I mean, if he was behind the original trilogy, he must be a genius, right? And I don't know, like Attack of the Clones, like, we do see glimpses of Anakin sort of being tempted by the dark side, but 90% of the movie is just him hanging out with Padme. Like, he really doesn't do doesn't do anything else.
I agree with that. Well, it does.
But
I think they kind of they went into
that sets
too
up
much,
a love story.
They went too much into the romantic side.
I agree.
Like, it was kind of wasting time.
When they're in the field,
I hate saying
it was wasting time. But it was that. I mean, that connection between them was necessary. It was just emphasized too much.
What I like, briefly, I'm gonna mention the Star Wars animated Clone Wars show. That show like made Anakin, Padme, and all of the prequel characters a lot more like fleshed out. It really develops them a lot better. I'm going to briefly say what I think of Anakin and Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is definitely the best of the prequels and the least messy. However, if you really like analyze it like as a film, Revenge of the Sith is still pretty messy. I like Anakin's storyline in Revenge of the Sith overall. You know, Padme being pregnant, Anakin not being so sure about that, Anakin having visions of Padme dying, his camaraderie between him and Palpatine, but then his actual turn to the dark side when he slices off Mace Windu's hand. He's like, "What have I done?" And then 10 seconds later, "You are my master, Palpatine." And then Palpatine's like, "I shall name you Darth Vader." That is so abrupt.
I think they should have like easily, what's the word? They should have more subtly, what's the word?
Subtly developed.
Yes, they
that
should
subtly
have
developed this turn.
Developed it.
Like,
better,
it's so abrupt.
because
Like,
it's like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And then right away it's like, I submit to you.
Yeah, and then I will acknowledge though that Hayden Christensen actually does look really cool when right after he submits to Palpatine, he's going and killing all the Jedi and the younglings, and when he fights, and the whole Order 66 sequence in general was just really it still broke my heart when I rewatched it a few days ago. I was like, oh, this is actually really affecting me, and I still think that I still think that Anakin's just whole actual shift to the dark side was too abrupt, and I think this might be an unpopular opinion. The fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, it is cool, but
I think it's really cool.
It's way too long.
I'm gonna be real here. That's the only part of that movie that I actually can remember right now.
That is
in this moment. That's the only thing I think about when I hear Revenge of the Sith, because I see the high ground. I have the high ground now. You know, like I have.
You were the chosen one.
Yeah,
it was said that you would destroy
part.
the Sith, not just you. It said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them.
And when
you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you.
Oh.
I love that scene.
Ewan McGregor is objectively the best part of the prequels.
Yes, I agree. He's a really good actor.
He's
standing out.
How is Ewan McGregor? By the way, how is Ewan McGregor not been nominated for an Oscar yet?
Dude, I don't know.
Not for Star Wars.
He was in
but
Moulin
in general,
Rouge. Come on.
But in general, like, he's such a great actor.
He is very good.
But anyway,
he was like, "You are the chosen one."
Yeah. Just
I love it.
his emotions was actually like really there.
Yeah.
And Ewan McGregor killed it, and I'm really looking forward to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus. But I don't know, like Anakin, like I like the stuff overall for Anakin Revenge of the Sith, but I just the actual turn was just so abrupt.
Yeah, I think that was like that was a pinnacle scene, and they really should have eased into it a bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was like,
also rewatching the movie, Ian McDiarmid did a horrible job with the choreography when, as Palpatine, he was fighting both Mace Windu and Yoda. Like if you rewatch the movie, you'll see him like make all these faces, and he's going like huh, huh, and like making like stabbing motions, and that choreography was so bad. And oh, by the way, going back to Attack of the Clones real quick, the duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Count Dooku, easily the worst duel in Star Wars franchise. That duel was just so bad, so poorly shot, and just choreographed. Just ugh.
Which one was it?
In Attack the Clones, when they face against Count Dooku twice, at the end of Attack the Clones and at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. The Revenge of the Sith one actually is pretty cool, but in Attack the Clones, it's like they're just like waving their lightsabers over their heads, and it's like all these rapid cuts.
Oh, you mean like when there's a bunch of Jedi?
Well, that was after that scene.
Oh.
That was after that all the Jedi faced off against all the droids, and Jango Fett died. But this might be an unpopular opinion, but I have issues with Anakin in the prequels, and I also have issues with Yoda in the prequels. Because if you watch the original trilogy, Yoda is this very mystical, larger-than-life character, and he's just... And he says all this stuff like, he says all this stuff about like how the Jedi should not be, like violent, and like they are supposed to be keepers of the peace, not warriors for war. That's definitely not exactly how he said it, but along those lines. And I also like when he described the Force as this mystical just entity around us, and it flows through us. And I really don't like that, like, it's because of midi-chlorians that the Jedi notice Anakin. Like, why couldn't it have just been they just noticed that Anakin's really attuned with the Force?
I think I like that because it brings it down to a science. Because it just kind of emphasized that the Force was not just something that they were just like imagining, or because I mean obviously you saw things like move, like whenever they wanted things to move, but like the fact that they could kind of like scientifically go into it just a little bit and kind of explain like, okay, if someone has the Force, you can see it in there. I just think that was interesting.
I would respectfully disagree, but I also didn't like... So in the original trilogy, Yoda is this very wise, larger-than-life, almost kind of goofy, mystical character. And I like that Yoda is such a sage-like character that he doesn't even need to use a lightsaber. Like, I really dislike the fact that Yoda ordered clones to shoot down droids and Attack the Clones, and that in both Attack the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, he uses a lightsaber. Yoda should not have to use a lightsaber. Yoda should be better than that.
I don't know. Against Count... Wasn't that was in the second one, right?
In the second and the third prequel, Yoda uses a lightsaber to fight and kill people, which directly contradicts with what Yoda said about keeping the peace in the Empire and Return of the Jedi. And it's like, it's just so like, it's so frustrating to me to see Yoda, who is supposed to be... people complain about Luke being inconsistent in The Last Jedi. I think that Yoda was extremely inconsistent in the prequels, and just I really disliked seeing him kill droids and clones and trying to kill his enemies in the prequels. Yoda really should have been written better, I think.
I don't know, because you still, I mean, all the Jedi have... That it comes down to having to keep balance, right? You're not gonna send a police officer out without a gun, correct? Like the Jedi
but the Jedi, the whole point, like what I really liked about the Jedi is that they're not supposed to be the ones who attack first. Right. The lightsaber is supposed to be a last resort, but in the prequels, they do attack first constantly. Like they're the ones who always take the first strike, and they're the ones who ruthlessly kill like clones and droids. I mean, I get droids aren't living things, but still, like, I don't know, just that just really just frustrates me a lot. That Yoda uses a lightsaber in the prequels.
Yeah.
Like people complain about inconsistent writing in the Disney movies. Like, if you really like analyze the prequels, like, I don't get me wrong, I enjoy the prequels a lot, but they are objectively, if you look at them from a filmmaking perspective, they are objectively messy movies. And if you look at them through an analytical, critical perspective, they really do contradict the original trilogy a lot. It's just that people in our generation hold them to more of a higher, we look at them in a higher light because we grew up with these movies, and like, it's not fun looking back at something you loved as a kid and realizing, oh, maybe this isn't as good as I hoped it was, as good as I thought it was. I don't know, but I just want to ask you guys. So obviously, it seems like you guys, you really enjoy the prequels more than the Disney movies. Is that right?
Oh, for sure.
For sure. So, just a quick question for you guys. What is your guys' least favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh.
4, 5, 6.
What?
You're joking, right?
I'm sorry, I can't.
You're joking, right?
What?
So I'm not joking. Honestly, if they remade those 3 movies in today's graphics, I
Why
cannot.
You like the graphics?
I don't like shitty. I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
Bad graphics.
There were bad graphics in the prequels.
Yeah.
No.
What are you talking about?
They were still. I could still understand like today's. Like, I could understand the science behind the technology they had to make the CGI'd screens and everything. I could understand that. But back then, it's like, it was so grainy. And I didn't.
That's the point.
That's
That's what made it
Okay,
better.
but you were in space with technology that can fly thousands of jumps.
Okay.
You can't have grainy film.
That's like arguing. So Star Wars took place in the 70s.
You can't have grainy film if there's stuff about
Star Wars
aliens.
started in the 70s. So that look was the first look that was presented to the world. That means that's the style, that's the vibe of Star Wars. So the fact that they changed it in the prequels kind of messes up the whole vibe.
Well, they had to.
And
technology advanced.
And
technology has advanced.
But even though technology has advanced, what I like about the Disney movies is that visually it resembles the original trilogy. Like, they film stuff as practically as possible. They use actual props. Like, say what you will about Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. They actually use like actual props, and they film stuff as practically as possible. So, but that's what I like about the original trilogy and the Disney movies. And and so I'm
the outlier here.
Okay.
I'm the man in the hangman's noose. So
all right, Michaela. I'm ignoring Joshua from now on.
I'm just gonna go home.
No, don't do that.
I've never met anyone who likes the CGI.
Me neither.
I've always been a sucker for good CGI.
It's
so
terrible.
I'm gonna
I'm
gonna bring up something in Colton's. Maybe you guys touched it in your last podcast, but Doctor Strange in the Marvel Universe.
That CGI was great.
I love that movie because the CGI was so good.
Oh yeah, it was really good.
That was probably the greatest CGI film. Did they win an award for that?
No.
They should have.
No.
Because that was the best CGI I've ever seen in my
It was really
entire
great.
life.
It was really great CGI.
I love the trippy looking stuff, man. That's so cool. Now, explosions and fire, I mean, you can do that and film it. But when you add these lightsabers in, you add the cool, just all the different things, like all these ships flying into, what was the planet called in The Rise of Skywalker?
I honestly don't even remember.
I don't remember either. They had to fly through the area, and then all the ships arrived. But all these ships, and it's like they thought they were done. They were like, oh, we've lost all hope. Because we just did. We lost all hope. And then the one guy, what was the one guy? I hate the black guy that comes out. He's driving the Falcon in the end.
Lando.
Lando.
Yeah, Lando.
He comes in, and he's just like, you're not alone. I'm like, oh!
I saw that coming.
I mean, I was wondering where the scenes would come from, but
yeah.
And then the fact that, okay, now you brought up the fact about toys, right? No, Fortnite, okay? I hate to go here, but Fortnite did a crossover with Star Wars.
Oh, boy.
Okay, they literally asked the people what they wanted to see. I thought that was so cool that they could implement something like that and that they would allow a video game that has nothing to do with Star Wars come in and introduce and actually give you a preview. Like, I don't know if anybody else saw it, but Fortnite let the George Lucas or whoever filmed it, I don't know, some guy was on stage and he's like, what do you guys want to see? And they let them choose. They let the players choose out of a poll by standing on a certain tile. And so they all chose a Jedi mind trick. And I could see where that scene was coming. I knew where she was like, it is okay that we are here. It is really okay that we are here. And it's just like that. I understand that it's just so cool to be able to implement these things into the real world nowadays. And like back then they didn't have that. You went to the movie theater, you wasted your $12 or your however much it cost back in the 70s, $5. Today it's like $12.50, $13, and I'm like I just blew through gas money, bro. Like
right.
I'm wasting my money if I go to a theater nowadays. So my point there is like back then, yeah, I could spend $3 to go see a grainy film, but today, if I'm gonna go see a movie, I want to go see something with a lot of CGI
that's
coverage.
That's your style. You like to see all the.
I like the animation.
You like to see like the fake anime.
The fact that I'm blind basically has part to do with that because I want to see as much as I can as while I still have my vision.
You guys can't see, but just like me, Joshua needs glasses.
We have glasses, dog. Like, we are blind.
All right,
I just like the whole. I like that Star Wars took place in the 70s because, and that's why Star Wars, I would argue, is kind of a trend right now because the 70s style is kind of back and kind of that old school type of style and vibe. That's why it's kind of trendy right now. So that's why I love that it was in the 70s because it's kind of like almost like a retro feel.
Yeah. Retro is really in these days with our generation, like just retro stuff going back in general. But just curious, what is your least favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh yeah, sorry, we totally went on a tangent.
It's fine.
Including the new ones.
Include just all looking at all of them.
I mean, like, in terms of entertainment, I was least entertained with Rogue One, but I think it was like a good movie. I think it was pretty well done, but I was bored by it.
I agree that Rogue One was boring for the first half. However, the second half, when they're on the enemy base and that whole huge battle and that awesome scene with Darth Vader, like you, I think that at least the first half of Rogue One was just so dull, but so in terms of an entertainment standpoint, your least favorite Star Wars movie is Rogue One, but do you have like another least favorite?
Yeah, I think in terms of like a filmmaking or analytical perspective, I think that The Last Jedi is probably my least favorite. It's just because all the little they try to introduce all these little critters.
It's interesting you say that because visually, in my opinion, The Last Jedi has the best filmmaking. I think visually with all the colors, with the blues and the reds, and on Canto Bight, say what you will about that sequence, but Canto Bight looked great in my opinion.
I need to rewatch it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I know that out of the first three, either I'm thinking the middle one is, if I can remember it correctly, was kind of just looked really cheesy to me, and I just didn't like that.
Are you talking about in the original trilogy?
No, in the newer ones.
Last Jedi. Oh, okay.
Kind of cheesy.
I will acknowledge there are definitely cheesy moments in The Last Jedi, but personally, I love Rey's arc, Kylo's arc, Luke's arc. Even if it isn't completely consistent with how he was in the original trilogy, I still love Luke. At first, I didn't like Holdo, but then that twist happened, and I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of get behind that. Canto Bight, I will acknowledge, was kind of pointless, but I didn't mind. The only thing I personally really disliked from Last Jedi was Rose kissing Finn. Like, what was that all about? Just why? Just why?
Oh, right.
That was just, and also Finn in general just was kind of wasted in that movie. Like he was basically just following Rose around, and he was the main character in The Force Awakens. So, and also Rise of Skywalker kind of wasted Finn as well.
I don't understand Rose's character. I don't know. Maybe it's just like she wasn't a good actor. She
was fine. I mean, she was fine.
She's the one that was like where Finn found her like in the ship.
Yeah.
She just wasn't a good actor to me. I don't think she fit.
I think
the whole look of Star Wars.
I think that a factor to that probably will be that I don't think that Rian Johnson directed the actors who played Rose and Finn, Kelly Marie Tran and John Boyega, as well as he directed Mark Hamill and Daisy Ridley. I feel like what happened was Rian Johnson had no idea what to do with Finn, so then he was just like, all right, I'll just create the subplot on Canto Bight with Rose Tico, and yeah, I'll just have that in the movie. Because like rewatching Last Jedi, it is clear that he put so much more care and effort into Luke and Rey's and Kylo's stories than Finn or even Poe's story. But still, like, I do acknowledge that Last Jedi has cheesy moments for sure, but I don't know. I just, it's kind of hard for me to dislike a Star Wars movie. Like as much as many issues as I have with the prequels, like, I still really enjoy watching them, except for Attack of the Clones. Except for Attack of the Clones.
I think that's one thing about Star Wars films, is that it makes you feel a part of something bigger.
Yes,
it makes you feel like you're a part of it, and it can bring families together. Like, when I was growing up, I didn't get to go see Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. I didn't get to see those in theaters. I didn't even see them when they came out. You know, like when they came out on DVD or Blu-ray. Like, I didn't see them then. But I knew that this was something that, I mean, I went back and I was 18 and I built the Millennium Falcon out of Legos with my mom.
That sounds awesome.
Star Wars brings families together no matter what. Like, even if you hate it, it's still time to debate within a family. If you have a disagreement, it's a disagreement. You can agree to disagree. You know, it's a great unifier. Because we all feel a part of this universe that doesn't really exist.
Like, no matter how silly or messy Star Wars gets, it'll always hold a special place in my heart, and especially since I grew up with Star Wars, like, I understand with those who didn't grow up with Star Wars why it wouldn't mean as much to them, but to me, like, Star Wars means so much, and to me, Star Wars is its worst when it's at its most mediocre. Like, I'll accept Star Wars good and bad, but when it's just okay and not very exciting, that to me is when Star Wars is at its worst. And I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but like I'll accept the bad CGI in Phantom Menace over just the boring storyline in Solo, because Phantom Menace at least was more entertaining to me than Solo.
Yeah, that's one thing. I think the prequels did a really good job of being entertaining, and maybe not so much the romantic
Except
side.
Attack of the Clones.
The romantic side was interesting, especially for like the girls like who were watching. But it was like fun to watch, but it was a little too much. But overall, the prequels did a good job at being like entertaining while keeping the story pretty together overall.
Do you guys just have any other final thoughts on any of the Star Wars movies, or just like this franchise in general?
One. Okay, I have one. With this last movie, they gave so much content that now they can branch off so much. And I wanted to hit this real quick because they went to that planet, and who is that girl that Poe liked? that was gonna shoot.
Zuri, I think.
Something like that.
Zuri.
Yeah, and
Zuri. I don't even know.
yeah, and Karen Gillan played her voice. It was her.
No, it wasn't
Karen
Gillan.
Gillan?
It was Carrie Russell.
Okay,
Not
it
Karen.
sounded like
Not
Karen
Gillan.
Oh my gosh, she's like that character. There could be a whole show now on Poe. Like there could be a whole show or a whole movie on that. I mean, and then the little droid.
Which one is Poe?
Poe's the
Poe's
guy.
the white guy.
He's the guy who took over after what's her name died. He became the general of the army.
Princess Leia.
Princess Leia, that's who it was. So I don't know. I just thought they got a lot of content out in such a short amount of time. I was warned to take Advil, and I didn't, but I didn't get a headache because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
I didn't get a headache watching Rise of Skywalker either, but both of those things involving Rey just still frustrate me so much. I will say though, the scene with Harrison Ford in Rise of Skywalker was awesome.
Yes.
That's objectively, in my opinion, that was the best scene in my opinion. But I have just one more question before we end this. Will you guys continue to watch Star Wars, like with Mandalorian? I know you guys haven't finished Mandalorian yet, but will you continue to watch that in season 2? Will you continue to watch the upcoming Kenobi show or the Star Wars films? Will you guys?
I will always rewatch them because they're always gonna be something that I treasure in my life. Star Wars, it's just such a since I grew up with it, and it's always like something I'd watch during Christmas time. But for the new ones, I'm interested in The Mandalorian. I've seen the first one, and I didn't even know that there was Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes. I'd be interested in that too because I love.
And Ewan McGregor's reprising his role.
He is.
He is.
Okay,
yeah.
So yeah.
He's reprising his role.
That's great. Yeah, I definitely would be interested in that.
Yeah, I definitely keep watching. It's really sparked my interest now. I literally pulled up my Disney Plus and I see they have like Clone Wars and all these other animated ones, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta go watch these to see other storylines. I mean, there were books, right? There were books to it as well, so I want to read those. But it's like it sparked my interest.
Unfortunately, most of the books that were written about Star Wars were written before Disney bought Lucasfilm, and then once Disney bought Lucasfilm, they were like, okay, most of these books don't matter anymore. Yeah, they're not really canon anymore, which frustrated a lot of Star Wars fans.
Yeah, it's just a whole universe I'd like to dive into as an escape.
Yeah, Star Wars is definitely escapist entertainment. I'm definitely continue watching Mandalorian for sure, season 2 for sure, and the Obi-Wan show. I don't know if they'll make new films, but if they do, then I'll watch them. Maybe not like opening night or opening weekends like I did with The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, or Rise of Skywalker, but I'll definitely watch them at some point. And that concludes episode 2 of Podcast Racing. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Michaela and Joshua, for being on my podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was awesome. We should, if it's cool with you guys, we should do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you guys in hopefully 2 weeks for my next episode. Bye.